What's going on YouTube? Today, I'm going in depth into my settings and why I use the things I do. The settings I use are extremely unique and are tailored to my playstyle. It's taken a long time to get these settings nailed, and there's probably still minor room for improvement, but I'll be sure to keep you updated on any changes that I make. Before the video starts, if you want to support the channel more, feel free to use code DRAFT in the Fortnite item shop. Reminder, it does reset every 14 days. On that note, let's get into it. So, now to the sensitivities. So I run 0.835 on both X and Y. I ignore all the mouse sensors. This is just for when I'm looking at skins, and yeah, they're not actually set to anything important, it's just random. Controller targeting, 0.255. This is quite low. I know Forge uses almost double this. Now, there was an update about maybe 4 or 5 months ago now, and they changed how this works drastically. It used to be so much faster. I used to run 5.55 on this, 0.555. And yeah, and it was just way too quick after the update. I'm not sure what they did, but yeah. So this is what I use now. This is very similar to what Zabi uses, and it's just like, aim is pretty nutty with an AR. This is mainly what this is referring to. Controller scope sense, 0.55. Now, you want to have a bit of speed as well as control over scopes. The scoped AR is kind of like pretty straightforward. It's kind of like, I don't really use this sensitivity for that as much. I prefer have more control over my snipers than have a sensitivity that works for both of them. I don't really pick up a scoped AR, but if you do, you might want to adjust this sensitivity to match both snipers and that. So yeah, that's the sense I use for that. Controller building sense, I use 1.226. Now, I get a lot of questions about why I use this and why it's not significantly higher. Now, I run a high base sense, as you can probably see, and this is a multiplier. So I run a sensitivity like this because I don't want to have to think or control the way I do my 90s, and like in clutch situations and when I'm building boxes in extremely low frame situations, and I don't really want to have to think about controlling my builds. I'm just focused on everything else. So I run a low sense, so I have to push my stick to its limit to do a full like 90, you know? I have to actually I don't have to control it. I just go all out, push the stick all the way to the side of the casing, and yeah, that's why I use such a low sensitivity. Controller edit mode sense, same thing. The lower your sensitivity, the easier it is to control and use in low frame situations. These settings are strictly comp. I use these for creative as well, obviously, and like it's definitely doable. Sense isn't as big of a deal when it's so high. If you're using super low sense, then you're like limiting yourself, but because my base sense is so high, running these is just like a personal preference thing to me. So the lower your sense, the easier it is to control your edits and pull off edits endgame. So Zabi's adjusted these and lowered his down quite a bit recently because he's realized it is easier to control. If you had like a 1.8 build sense and a 1.8 editing sense, and that's not even possible, no one can edit with that. Like a 1.5 endgame edits, you might get stuck a couple of times, and like that's pretty important. I always run anonymous mode, 0.75 HUD scale, sprint by default. When I go to my binds, you'll understand a little bit more about the way I sprint and my movement. Just go through all of these. Aim assist on, edit mode, aim assist off. Some people say leave this on. Definitely don't do it. It really screws with your editing, and you'll have a lot more control over just everything if you have that off. Turbo bidding on. Auto run off. I might need to bind this to something when I switch to a scuff eventually. I don't use a scuff at the moment, but this can come in handy when diving in. Better prep it immediately on. I don't actually use this. If you use an instant edit bind, this plays no role. Vibration off. Vibration can mess with your aim completely. That's been a thing since competitive Call of Duty. I have replays and creative mode replays and all of that off because of frames. There was like a frame stutter issue, and I found that frames after they fixed that issue were still better with this off. Alrighty, on to the rest of the settings. Here are my color blend settings. I don't use a color blend setting. The strength is on 4 because that's when I was trying out Dew when the storm thing was around. That is still a thing. I just don't like the look of the game. I can't really, my eyes don't like it at all. and I don't think it's that much of a benefit being able to see a little bit more into the storm. It's really a personal preference thing. If you can deal with it, then yeah, but it's just not for me. Alrighty, here's where my settings get a little bit more interesting. I have my map on up D-pad, place marker on left D-pad, inventory right, emo picker down, edit is on touchpad, jump, X, circle is my switch mode, reload and interact is my square, toggle pickaxe is triangle. Now everything else is the same. Now I have my left stick unbound. This is generally set to sprint/auto sprint. I have that unbound completely because I find it messes with the way auto sprint works sometimes. Crouch and repair, it's my right stick. Stair roof, wall, floor, that's the standard Builder Pro binds. I literally unbind everything apart from change material and trap on this because I sometimes find, because I play double claw, that I accidentally press these buttons. Keep this unbound. My edit is that. Crouch is right stick still, and everything else is the same except my trap picker place and interact is still square. So all I do is I double tap and that's how it places my traps. I'm pretty sure that's a standard builder throw thing as well. Always done it like that. When I'm editing, everything is unbound except my confirm and my select and my pickaxe and my jump. Even my crouching and whatnot, it's all gone. My reset is right stick. I'm pretty sure that's pretty standard as well. But I do have two edit buttons. I edit with touchpad and I confirm with circle. You can look into videos on YouTube about why double edit buttons are better, but pretty much I can touch the touchpad and circle almost simultaneously, meaning my edits are going to be significantly faster than someone with a single bind. Alright, Deadzone. 0.15 on the left stick and 0.2 on the right. Now, it's not a very common trend that you see a lot of high sensors using high dead zones. The reason I do this is because it's, as I said before, controlling the thumbstick. So I have a high dead zone. Dead zone is the percentage you have to move your thumbstick before it registers. Now, if you have a super low dead zone, like really low, you hardly have to move your stick before it starts like detecting the input. Now, this gives you a lot more control. However, I find that it can be super inconsistent and like I just don't like the feel of it. It doesn't match my playstyle, and I rely on flicking for aim. So the more I move my stick, the more control I have. I don't have to focus on micro movements and yeah, all of that sort of thing. Now this movement is very important on controller. If you want keyboard and mouse like movement on controller, you have to have a low dead zone, but not so low that it becomes stuttery. I found if you have a super low left stick dead zone, then you're sprinting, and because I have auto sprint set, your sprinting can get caught up sometimes, and you might see like you do the tiniest little turn and it'll like reset your like momentum in one direction. Now, if you have it at 0.15, I found, but anywhere between 0.1 and 0.15 is probably the best. It gives you the freedom of movement with a low dead zone, but it also doesn't affect, like your minor movements don't affect your momentum in directions. So that's just the reason I use that. So that's pretty much going to wrap up my settings. I hope you enjoyed. I hope these help you out and you find settings from these that you like, or these do just help you in general. I definitely recommend giving these a try. They may work, they may not. If you want to check out some of my other videos and see my playstyle and the way I play, I rely on my hipfire aim quite significantly. I don't really aim in a lot of the time with anything apart from ARs. I flick and I rely on my drum gun hipfire and my shotgun hipfire, etc. Thanks for coming out to the video. Make sure to drop a like if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what you want to see from me next. I'll be streaming most nights again now. Now the World Cup is pretty much over. I have a lot more freedom about what I can stream and upload. Thanks everyone for coming out, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.